Welcome to the show No Instructions, where we meet with founders and interview them about starting and growing their businesses. I'm your host, Chad Ingram, three-time founder and CEO at Distro. Distro is a platform to help businesses build teams by breaking down borders around the world. Let's go ahead and get started with today's guest and see how they built their business. Welcome to the show No Instructions today. Today we have Brad Parker with us. Brad is a CEO and founder of Private Auto. So welcome to the show today.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Got to turn my phone on Do Not Disturb. I usually am good about that, but we're happy to have you. We met some months ago. I'm kind of a car enthusiast. People that know me well aren't surprised by that. I'm always talking about cars. So yeah. I noticed the company and I was like, oh, I should meet this guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, cool. So before we jump into your story, maybe tell us, what is Private Auto?
Private Auto is it's like Venmo for private party car sales. So makes it easy to do the bill of sale, transfer money, and do it all on your phone in the parking lot. And there's no middleman. It's purely peer-to-peer technology.
Awesome. And when did you start it?
We went live in 2022.
Cool. So that's cool. Okay. We're going to come back to Private Auto for sure and hear more about it. You know, how you got that going and everything, but where does your story start? Is it something, you know, as a kid, you always kind of felt like an entrepreneur? Is it something that hit you later in life?
It's a good question. I think a lot of it came, I think I came from a very entrepreneurial family. You know, even my granddad, he was, one of those stories where he left home at like, you know, when he was 16 and then just kind of started his own life from there. And even my dad, you know, my granddad was one of the oldest family-owned boat dealerships. He started a boat dealership in 1927.
Where at?
Asheville, North Carolina.
Wow.
But anyway, I think there was always that kind of entrepreneurial spirit, you know, within the family. And even my dad, he didn't go to college, but he just worked hard. And I think even in the home, I look back and I appreciate it now more than ever. It's almost like there was never a ceiling over my head. It was like, okay, if you want that new surfboard, kid, then here's the jobs to earn the money to do it.
And where did you grow up?
In Florida, Orlando area.
Yeah. That would explain the boat thing.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So, but anyway, I think that was like a culture that kind of existed in the family where there was never a ceiling. It was almost like, if you want it, go get it. And I always appreciate that growing up.
Did your mom stay at home with kids?
She did, yeah.
Okay, cool. And so what did your dad do? Like, you know, it sounds like he didn't go to school, so he's, you know, graduated high school and went to work? Yeah,
he just started working for his dad at the boat dealership in Orlando.
Awesome.
So, you know, he just started working there and that became his life. I remember as being a kid and just like rummaging around all the parts piles and in the shop with the mechanics. And that's kind of the thing I did on the weekends or, you know, growing up was just, you know, hanging around the dealership was kind of what I did.
That's cool. That's cool. Do you think like your dad or your grandpa, like they expected that from you, do you think, to be an entrepreneur? Or, you know, would it have been okay also to go get a job from somebody at some point? Or
yeah, I think so. I don't think there was any pressure one way or the other.
Sure.
I think they, you know, were definitely keen on getting an education, doing well in school, but really no pressure on any one like course or another.
Sure.
I think, you know, in time, my dad definitely had he wanted some of us, or at least one of us, to come into the family business,
right?
Which ended up being me and then my older brother. Cool. So I think there was an expectation. It was his hope when we were little kids that somebody could pass on the business like his father did to him.
Yeah, that's cool. So after high school, what did you do?
After high school, I went to UVSC.
Oh, yeah. That's here in Utah.
That's
so you ended up in Utah.
I ended up in Utah. Came out here and it's funny. Some of the odd jobs. I sold vacuums while I was here.
Like Kirby's?
Like it was TriStar.
Oh, okay.
They were expensive.
Are they better than Kirby?
I don't know.
All right.
But that didn't last too long. But I bust tables and did little things just to earn some extra money while I was out here. And then after that, I served a mission for the LDS Church.
Where'd you go?
Went to the Dominican Republic.
Awesome. Yeah, very awesome. What year was that?
98 to 2000.
Okay, awesome. And so then you come back, right? Take this school hiatus, go on a service mission.
Yeah.
And what do you study in school when you come back?
I didn't do that great my first year of school before I went on a mission.
Yeah.
I think actually I withdrew my second semester because I went surfing and
he was playing too much.
And I was playing too much and I didn't come back.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was starting from scratch. So I was just doing all the generals when I got back. But then when I was deciding on major and kind of what course to take, it was at, so I actually went to Ricks College in Idaho, which became BYU Idaho. And then I got married and then transferred down to the BYU and went to the Marriott School. And it was around that time that they just came out with the entrepreneurship program. It was either that same year or the year before.
I didn't realize it was that new.
Yeah.
Cool.
And so that just like spoke to me. And I think what happened for me was, it's like I wanted to know about, finance and accounting and marketing, but it's like I didn't feel a strong desire to take a deep dive into any of them.
Sure.
And so I think that's the thing that I loved about the entrepreneurship course, because it gave me a general understanding of all of it
But what was clear to you at the time? I mean, you're this young punk kid, maybe a little directionless, wanting to just surf all the time, right? And now you find yourself in some landlocked state.
I was better now after post mission.
You were a little bit more responsible.
I was way more responsible after my mission, and actually, I got married a year after I got back from my mission. Yeah. And then we had our first child a year after that.
Wow.
And so already in school, so I think, my priorities changed and just very focused on school and focused on career.
How much of that was just, your own personal drive to go figure something out versus, and maybe also, now you got a family.
Yeah.
So how were you thinking about what you were going to do at that time? What did your future look like?
Yeah, no, I remember that very well. It was actually hard for me because I look at, my dad was, successful, managing a successful dealership in Florida. And I think it was always the fears of like, what am I going to do? How am I going to be able to provide for my family? And even being in the business school, a lot of the MBA students are even in the classes and stuff that you're taking. And it seemed like everyone was so much further ahead. It's like they already had their business ideas or they're already running a little business. And like, I always felt like I had nothing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, I wish I had a good idea. Like I wanted to start a business. But then I came to the realization, I think it was one of the best things, I did was, I wanted to know for sure if I was really passionate about the boat business, because I didn't want to just pack up my family and take everyone back to Florida.
Was that always going to be an option, did you think?
Yeah, so I think it's definitely at this point, it was kind of like, my dad did want me to come back, but I think my dad was smart. He kind of had a requirement that you have to go work for someone else for a minimum of 2 years before you come back and work for me.
That's fantastic.
And so, but it was actually the best thing ever. So I actually, went and got a job at a boat dealership in Salt Lake while I was here. And I ran their parts department. I also did sales. But it was great because during that time I was able to realize that I like this. I actually really like this.
Yeah.
And so then after the 2.5 years that I was there, then I felt passionate enough about going back and working for the family dealership. Mm-hmm. And it was also nice too, because it's, being that like owner's son, you never want to feel like you're getting special consideration coming in, and having that knowledge of working and kind of, proving yourself somewhere else and then going there, it made a big difference.
Yeah.
I mean, there was things that I learned that I had some ideas to even help, the family business with certain things that they were doing. But most of the stuff I've done is in sales.
Okay.
And so that was actually, I appreciated the fact that I came in and I was 90% commission, full sales, and you either, slay it and live, or
You eat
you
what
die.
you kill. Yeah.
That's right. And so I was on equal playing ground with all the other salesmen.
So, okay. So going back a little bit, now you're in school, in business school,
Yeah.
a Marriott School of Business, and you've got a kid and you've got a wife. And what is that conversation like? Like, okay, we need to go back to Florida.
Yeah. So I think my wife, she had always kind of anticipated it.
Yeah.
Knowing the family business and everything. So
also, it's super hot there. Does she know it's super hot there?
Especially in August.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Especially in August. Yeah. So no, it was. I don't know. She's a trooper, and I think she always kind of anticipated it, so it wasn't a shock.
Okay. And where's she from?
Orem, Utah.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't as much of a shock as, you had worried that maybe it would be.
July, August, it was a shock. But other than that, yeah.
Yeah. You just kind of get used to it, though, don't you? Just like sweat all the time.
Well, it's like Utah. It's not like you're hanging out in the cold,
true.
in the winter.
It's true.
Same thing. You're in an air-conditioned car or air-conditioned office building.
Right. Yeah. So I actually lived and served an LDS mission in Colombia in Barranquilla, which is on the northern coast, not that far from Florida.
Yeah.
And it is hot.
Roasting hot.
Yeah. It's so hot.
Yeah. It's so humid.
And humid. It's the humidity that makes it all worse.
Oh, that's what, yeah. It's like, at least here in Utah in the dry heat, you escape, you can be under a tree and it's like cool, but there's no escape in the heat.
No, you're just sweating.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So you arrive in Florida and you basically earn this job back at the family dealership, right? Mm-hmm. The boat dealership. And you started in sales? Is that where it was? Okay. Yeah. And I mean, did it take you very long to kind of get the hang of it, or what was that like?
Not really. I mean, I did sales, for the delership that I worked at in Salt Lake.
Okay.
Did well, sold, quite a few boats. And, and then, hit the ground running, did really well in sales. And it was 90% commission. So, which I think that prepared me for entrepreneurial life.
Yeah.
Because my brain was very different in the way that I thought.
Yeah.
It wasn't, so for example, if we needed a new car or we needed a new couch or something for the house, I immediately thought, okay, wait, that's just one boat, or no, that's two boats. And like, that's the way I thought. Oh, I sell to get that.
Right.
And so that's the way I was programmed. So it was, I don't know. I think it makes it easier to be an entrepreneur when you have confidence in your ability to like execute something.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Sales is like a perfect way, I think, for anyone to, get a sense for what it's like to be an entrepreneur, like eating what you kill, that sort of example.
Yeah.
Now to be a successful, scalable entrepreneur running, kind of a bigger growth business, you need to learn operations and a lot of other things too, right? But okay, so let's fast forward a little bit. Well, what year did you go back to Florida?
That was about 2005.
Okay. And how long until your dad sort of retires, or, what does this sort of like change in control kind of look like potentially for you? Does your dad kind of hang out, but then hand the reins over, or what does it look like at that point?
So kind of a step into that. So we opened a new location in Daytona Beach. And so I was responsible for basically everything from the ground up, hiring all the initial employees, all the inventory. So I managed that store, and actually it was a great opportunity, and it's tough. I think it's hard to go to an existing company that's been there for a long time and implement change. And I think I learned quickly, you don't use that word.
Yeah. Don't start with the word change.
You enhance, or you like do this or that, but you don't change anything. And I think having the opportunity to run my own store over in Daytona Beach, it allowed us just to do it, without like major risk.
Sure.
But just go ahead and do something.
Yeah.
And then point to, hey, look at what we tested, look at what we did. This actually turned out really well. You should do this as well.
Right.
And it gave us like the breeding ground to just do stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think it really helped the family business, with some of the things that we implemented. But I think kind of fast forwarding to, it was around 2010.
Yeah.
I started getting like intrigued with software.
Okay, why?
Because so I went managing the store. There was software for doing the normal deals, like
Point
just
of
a
sale.
dealer management system, point of sale.
Sure.
Even though it was crappy, there was still systems for it.
Right.
And then so we also in that time period, we started a yacht brokerage company because some of our customers that bought the bigger boats, the bigger boats operate like real estate, and you need to have a broker's license, very similar to a real estate broker, that's facilitating the sale on a larger size and dollar
Right.
yacht. And as we did that, we started to get some deals and be successful, but it was the biggest bottleneck of my day because it was all paper, print, scan, and fax.
Yeah, old school.
It was super old school. And even working in retail, my day off was like a Wednesday, or some random, day. I was always working Saturdays. We were closed on Sundays, which actually was unique for a recreational type, boat dealership like that in Florida. My dad used to always say, if you can't make it in 6, you can't make it in 7. So
that's funny. Some would say that's not true, but he's probably not wrong. That's funny.
But so it was that pain point too. And so, because a lot of times I may have been out of the office and I would get an offer on one of our brokerage boats, and it was like, oh crap, like I got to go back to the office.
You're here at the boat.
It's like I got to like prepare contracts and then like fax them or like send them to you. And a lot of times it's crazy. Like you'd be doing a deal on $1 million+ yacht, and after, especially if you had like 2 parties signing here as buyers or 1 party here, and after it got to each part, you can't even read the thing by the time like it gets to the final person. And it's all like, because the last person.
Would they have like had to go back to an office to do this, or are they doing it at the boat?
No, you had to go back to the office.
Really?
Because you had to, prepare the contract and either scan it or fax it,
But what made you look at this problem and say, oh, we can solve this with software in like 2010 or whatever it was, like what did you know about software at the time?
I think, so maybe to back up a little bit, I was always very curious. And not in an annoying way, but also like, what I learned really quickly in the family business is like, if you just ask, like, if you just go a few layers deep on why do we do that? Like, and then you'll find out quickly that, oh, it was, well, Susie before me did this. And then, and then Jeff did that. And then, well, do we know why? Well, no, I guess we don't. But they just stuck with that process. And there's so many like layers upon layers of processes where, so I think I share that in the beginning because I was always like, I'd even go into the parts department and I'd camp out. Yeah. And I'd be like, and I just observe and be like, why do we do it that way? Like, why does it go from here to there to here? And then, or why, like if you got the RO ticket and like, just the way that things flow.
And it's just like, because we always have.
Well, that's right. and that was usually the answer. And there was really no like core sound reasoning as to why. And I got like excited to like create efficiencies. And so I think it was, I don't know. I think it's something that I found it to be one of my knacks or things that I was, I don't know, being able to detect things like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, when I got to the yacht stuff, I was like, gosh, there's got to be a better way for this. So I would go and like create PDF packets and I mapped all the fields together on the PDFs so that I could do single entry and it would fill out all the contracts. And then like everyone at the other stores like, oh my gosh, can I use that?
But on paper, right?
But just on the computer.
Oh, it was on a computer using a PDF.
You'd still have to print it,
yes.
When you're done. Yeah. But at least it would single entry.
Right.
And auto pop you, because that's the thing with the brokerage deals. It's like real estate. You have listing contracts, you have offer contracts, you have acceptances, you've got all the closing paperwork. And so you got a series.
Literally like buying a house.
It's exactly the same.
Wow.
And so like stretch it out over a period of 30 days.
How do you define though? I mean, this is totally a tangent, but I'm curious. How do you define like what is a boat and what is a yacht? Is there a classification?
So technically I think, the length is somewhere around like 55 feet and above. Then you have other categories of super yachts and mega yachts and that are 100 feet, plus.
Wow.
But I think the typical,
That's cool.
Description is 55 and above.
So, okay. So you start digitizing this, and at the time you maybe didn't even know, but that's like literally what an MVP is, right? It's like, how do I make this just slightly better?
Pretty much.
And then get it in front of people.
Yeah.
And did it seem like it was actually speeding up the process?
Totally.
Okay.
Totally. And I think there was still the part where, because at this time, e-signatures was starting to be like kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Even though e-signatures was, I think it was like 2002 that the e-signature act made them legal.
Yeah.
But it wasn't being like
people weren't adopting it.
People weren't adopting it.
Yeah.
And I think it was just knowing that some of these things are available. And then, I mean, really selfishly, I was just trying to make my day easier. Yeah. I was trying to just make my day easier.
But was there any like at the time when you started speeding up this process, was there any thought that this could actually be like a SaaS business one day?
Not at that very moment.
Okay.
But it did, because actually I went and then I was thinking, well, man, I ought to get some developers. We ought to just like maybe create some kind of cloud thing that we could do this and incorporate the e-signatures. Because it was like, I remember it was one deal in particular that I had. I was literally standing in line at the movie theaters on like a Wednesday at noon with my two little boys and my wife. We were going to see a little movie on my day off.
Yeah.
And I get a call on a very expensive boat, and the guy wanted to make an offer right now. And I was like, crap. And I think, and that was like the moment for me. I was like, you know what? I want to be able to do this on my phone right now and have it done before I even go buy the popcorn. And I think that knowing that the technology existed, but nothing was really out there to do that was like the moment for me where, because it kind of disrupted my day. I had to go leave the family.
Yeah.
And but I had so many times like that where the typical time off with your family got disrupted.
So let's flash forward to the point where you actually figure out how to make this code. You hire a programmer, or what do you do next? Yeah,
so I just kind of Googled like programmer in Daytona Beach.
Awesome.
I just like, that's all. I didn't know any better, but I think it just started the process to learn. And in that process, I kind of like, I started to not fully trust what was happening.
Yeah.
And there was something just that just didn't feel right. And so I reached out to a guy I knew. He was actually went to my church in Florida. But I knew he was in commercial real estate, and he was previously in software.
Okay.
And so I wanted to just meet with him and be like, hey, can you take a look at this? Like, I want to show you what I'm doing. And his background of software and commercial real estate was perfect, because he's like, oh my gosh, I get it. This is amazing.
He gets the deal flow, and
that's right.
Maybe knows how to start the process to write some code or something.
Yeah. So he's like, oh my gosh, I don't know how, but I just want to be involved. And so I had him join me on a few of the meetings with these guys, and I'll kind of fast forward.
And what year roughly would this have been as you're really putting together this idea?
2010, 2011.
Okay.
Around there.
Okay.
So I'm still kind of managing the dealership too.
Yeah. Is this something that you were thinking that would just help the dealership, or were you thinking, all right, maybe maybe we could make this better? And does like your dad participate in this? Like, how does the business kind of come together?
Yeah, no, he knew about it. And I think it was when I was exploring someone to actually code it and create it. That's also when I was looking around and realized that there was nothing else out there.
Yeah.
And I think that was the point too, where I realized that, oh, wait a minute, there's like a lot of other people could use this.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until that point that I was just trying to solve my own problems.
That was actually a challenging time to start any sort of software business. I mean, it's certainly possible, but at the time, like cloud computing was just barely starting.
Yeah.
There were not the libraries that there are today. It was very different.
It was a lot of work to create
very different.
A cloud application.
Designing a product would have been extremely difficult. We don't have tools like Figma and other things like at the time.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So just very, very different. So what does this guy tell you? It's possible?
Well, probably the best thing that happened was in sitting in on those meetings, he was feeling it too, where something doesn't seem right. Mm-hmm. And so he had one of his software managers for a previous company that he really trusted, and then called him and invited him in to kind of like, learn what we're doing. And I think he was able to sniff through it really quick and be like, guys, they're building you into a corner. They wanted to build this widget that they could then use for like multi-purpose in other areas. And so it
was like a dev shop kind of thing initially.
Right. That's right.
Really risky. And at the time, a lot of people don't know this, which is helpful for distro because, we're very disruptive to a dev shop model. But like at the time, a lot of the dev shop relationships became that they would write the code and you would license it from them.
Yeah.
It was very common back then to have this sort of paperwork. Not common now, but I've seen it a couple of times. It's really weird.
And that's kind of what they were trying to do. And I didn't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't know. And so really we had like 8 to 10 months almost with these guys. And ultimately we ended up just deciding to scrap the whole thing.
Almost always.
And yeah. And that was most of the cash I had. I didn't have like tons of extra money.
So what were you doing it with? Were you able to use, like, was it your own money or were you using money from the company or?
No, it was my own money.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then Kevin and Andy. So Kevin was the one that was in commercial real estate, and then Andy, he was the technical, guy that came on board. And so the three of us decided to saddle up and just start building it. And so Andy coded the whole initial like foundation of it.
Wow.
And so we just started over from scratch. And Andy is like, "Hey, I want to be a part of it too." And
so what do you call it?
Yacht Closer.
Yacht Closer. Okay. And so, I mean, if you're all investing in it at this point, like the purpose would be to build its own separate business. What did your dad think about that? Like the thought of maybe losing you?
This was probably one of the hardest times in the family is that moment right there. Because he did intend on me taking over the business. And so I think it wasn't until like these first, like when we started to see the light on what we were building, I just became so passionate about software.
Yeah.
I also kind of realized like the retail grind was tough on a little family.
Yeah.
And so, but I just became so passionate about, like in retail, you're only as good as your last sale. And you start from scratch every day one, of the month. But it was intriguing, like software where what you created could have like an endless effect on every month based on like that solution that you created.
So to get this thing started with the three of you, like how much money did you guys put together to, hey, let's go figure this out initially? How much would you say? If you remember, it's a long time ago.
It might have been around like 50 grand or something, total. But most of us were we were moonlighting this.
Yes.
So I would give an honest day's work, to the company, but I would be working from like, I would help get the kids to bed. And then from probably 8:30 until about midnight every night, we were like on the phone, we were talking, we were working on our spreadsheets and, designs. I created all the designs in Excel.
I hope you still have them. I
think I still have some of the original. It's so bad.
It's embarrassing. I was actually looking at some of the original like design app of my last startup, Jump, and then even before that, it was a company called Scout, which nobody even remembers anymore. Yeah. And it's embarrassing. You're like, we thought that was good.
The top nav was just like a row with like the different, and then like the colored background, and then
nice, very nice. That's funny. I mean, I guess you could have done it with paper and crayons too, but it might have been better.
It might have been better.
That's funny.
But the part about the family, that was I think. Well, I'll take that back. So 2012 is when we went live.
Yeah.
With Yacht Closer.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where I was the industry insider. I knew the people that I needed to sell it to.
So you needed to sell it.
I had to sell.
Yeah.
And so there came a point where I had to make a decision. I got to jump
this
in
or
with
that.
Both feet.
Yeah.
And so that was really hard. And when I sat down to talk to my dad about that, I'm surprised he took it so well. He just didn't show his real emotions, but he was ticked.
Was he mad or hurt? Or both?
Both.
Yeah.
Both. More hurt than mad.
Was he surprised though?
No. Well, I think that's why he didn't react mad.
Kind of maybe saw it coming.
On the surface, because I think he saw it coming.
So what did your wife think?
You know what? She's amazing. And I think it did help with being in sales full time. And I think she started to trust that I could pull it out.
You could close deals.
I could close deals.
You had built some goodwill. You had some goodwill with her.
So I mean, we would make a bunch of money sometimes, and some months would be like tight. And she was always like, no matter how much money we have, she's a deal hunter. She's like, oh man, nice. She used to do coupons with the kids, and like even growing up, it's like my one son, Sam, he's still a coupon like nut. Like if it's not a deal, and like, or if he feels like he didn't get a deal on something, he's ticked.
He's upset. That's funny. So okay, so you do this full time. Your dad's really bummed. Who does your dad end up hiring to replace you? Is there a sibling that could have done it also? Or?
So we hired another manager to kind of take over that store, and then my older brother was there. But you know what? He had no intention of like taking over everything.
That was you. You were going to do that.
That's right. He was very good at sales. He was very good at the brokerage. He made great money. He was very successful in sales. But I think the one thing happened. So to kind of wrap it all up, it ended up being a blessing for everybody. My dad ended up selling the business and just, being able to, kind of exit and have a nice retirement. My older brother ended up going off and starting his own business and actually was still is to this day very successful. And
there you are with your little software company.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys built an MVP. It sounds like it took over a year or so to build this first version. Mm-hmm. It's sellable, probably barely. At least that's what usually happens. So you start selling. What's the feedback you're getting? Are people buying it?
Yeah, no, they loved it. And I think I realized too that the boat and yacht industry is very skeptical. Yeah. Especially for this type of business, because it's like really sensitive customer databases, people buying these boats.
Have money.
And I realized that like it was easier for me because I had done deals with some of these brokerage houses, whether we traded boats or we were talking about deals or we had done business before. So it was easy for me to call up so-and-so and be like, hey, I got this tool that will help this. Can you just take a look at it and give me some feedback? Oh yeah, come on down. And so I think I had doors open to me because of current relationships.
And how were you monetizing? Were you selling like a SaaS subscription to dealers to use it?
Correct. Yeah, okay. The brokerage houses, it was a tool they used and they paid a monthly subscription.
How much were you charging at the time?
It was only like a couple $100 a month.
So it's fairly inexpensive. I mean, this was also in 2012, right?
Yeah.
It's a while ago, but not crazy. And what does the first year look like? I mean, are you barely selling enough to get by, or is it a heyday?
Yeah, we weren't profitable for like 3 years, but no, it was a grind. I was like in a car going up and down east and west coast of Florida, selling every single dealership, even on East Coast.
What did the concentration look like actually? Like at scale later, Florida versus everywhere else? Were you guys really heavy in one particular area, or did it kind of spread out?
It spread out. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So really along the eastern seaboard and some of the bigger yachting areas, Baltimore and Annapolis area and even New York and Virginia, Chesapeake area, Great Lakes. We had a number of brokers, along. Actually, California doesn't really have a huge brokerage population.
Yeah.
But we had, presence there. But Texas, Florida was the biggest for sure.
Yeah.
That's where we had the most concentrated stores.
Yeah. And okay, so you start to sell. Are you able to pay yourself very much? And how is that? Like, do you feel like you were sacrificing for quite a while, or were you able to kind of keep a lean team and pay yourself okay in the beginning as a leader?
Yeah, we were super lean team. It wasn't like even the first year into it, we still didn't pay ourselves anything.
Wow.
And then after that, I think we maybe each It was around like 50 grand.
Wow.
And so it was pure survival income. And I mean, it was pure survival income.
Yeah.
And it stayed that way for a long time.
Yeah.
You know,
How many years?
Almost, well, probably 2.5 years.
Wow.
At that.
But you said you guys, you know, losing money, it's super scrappy. How are you funding it? Like,
so I did get a couple investors.
Okay.
One of our main investors was somebody I sold a bunch of boats to.
Really? I mean, you happen to know some really wealthy people, right? Like the customer user base is all really wealthy yacht owners.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So, and he was just an awesome human being, just a great guy. And actually just went to some hole in the wall Mexican joint.
Really?
And I just kind of shared the idea, eating some tacos.
It's awesome.
And no business plan, no slides, no deck. You know,
not like we do it today.
It's like all this tech stuff out here. It was just like, he's just like, I like the sound of that.
So did you even know how to think about like how to value a little SaaS business back then? Or was it like...
No clue.
No idea.
No idea. No idea. He had his attorney draft up.
Yeah, I'm sure. And you're like, thank you. Thank you.
Like,
I hope this went right.
Does this look okay?
That's amazing. Okay, so then you got a little bit of money in the bank to be able to hire some people.
Yeah.
So what do you do next?
Yeah, no, I mean, we just keep grinding. And I think it was, around 2015, even before that, we started to get a lot of activity through the platform. We started to get a lot of people using it. And then it was like, we recognized these other pain points or opportunities where, for example, long story short, we started our own finance company and bolted it on because you got all this, yacht deals going through here.
Yep.
We started our own title registration company, bolted it on. We were doing the closings and the registration on a lot of these boats and yachts. I got my property and casualty insurance license in Florida, and now we were able to get some commission on by plugging in insurance providers to the boats and yachts going through the platform.
Wow, that's cool.
So it became a platform, for these deals.
So you grew that for a little while. Did any of those other two people like join you as co-founders or have equity or anything like that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Kevin and Andy.
Yeah, Kevin and Andy.
Mm-hmm.
And so you exit that business. What year did you sell it?
2017.
2017. So you ran that for 6 years or so, roughly 6 or 7. Why did you sell? Like, what was going on at that point?
Yeah, no, it was kind of an exciting time. There was a few big companies that were kind of posturing on us and stuff, even a few years before that. But it just never seemed right. But we were starting, it was cool because when I'd go to the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show or Miami show, it seemed like most of the people were using our software. Like when I'd walk the dock, that's cool. It started with nobody using it to then walk in the dock and be like, oh, that's customer. That's cool. And so it was really cool. And we started to get really good momentum in the industry. And I think...
which was probably a pretty tight industry, right? Like it's not like there's that many yacht owners.
Oh, very, very much.
Compared to the US.
Well, even businesses. Yeah. It's like, especially on the yacht brokerage side, there might be like less than 3,000.
Yeah.
So it's not like going after a big TAM where, I mean, in that business, it's like you tick off one and you just decreased your TAM.
Yeah. It's like you learned a lot of you learned a lot at the yacht business, but then, maybe you went after a much larger TAM with private auto.
Yeah, for sure.
Which we'll talk about.
Yeah.
But, okay. So you guys are getting recognition. So people start reaching out.
Yeah. And I think the catalyst was, some of the big markets. So we were the only administrative tool in the industry for like this brokerage side.
Wow.
No, even today, no one else is like competed against Yacht Closer. But we got to the point where, you know what, we're going to go vertical. We're going to create our own listing site because we have all the data. We had the data from the biggest, companies in the industry.
Right.
Heck with these guys, we're not going to partner with them. We're going vertical. And that kind of, they didn't like that.
Is that who bought you?
Yeah. So
So they weren't happy. They reached out and they said, we're going to plunder you or we're going to buy you. You decide.
Well, and it would have been hard to do that because we had this administrative tool that they were doing all their contracting and closing business through our tool.
Yeah.
And so we and that's the unique thing too. It's like, I think there's opportunity when you focus on these sub niches of bigger industries.
Right.
So brokerage is a sub niche of the broader marine industry.
Right.
And then we went after the roots of the data. We went after the contracts where they're entering the original boat data and the customer data. It's really originating there before it ever goes to a listing site or anywhere else.
Yeah.
And so there's a big play at trying to get as close to the roots as possible on where your business latches on.
Definitely. I mean, this is an example where you can win big in a small TAM.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I think a lot of us, like, you know, a lot of technical founders, like, you know, SaaS founders, consumer tech founders, like we go after, you know, we try to go after these massive opportunities, right?
Yeah.
And the truth is, not everyone's a Facebook, Airbnb, or
Mm-hmm.
Uber, right? There's a lot of good businesses built in a small, like, niche group. I invested in a company a few years back that was in, you know, like assisting home builders and home designers,
Yeah.
which is a small group actually. But when you look at that and show that, all right, we can go deep, verticalize that,
Mm-hmm.
like you can do really well.
Yeah, that's the thing. And then when we bolted on the finance and registration, then it's low volume but high dollars.
Correct.
But when you go and like maximize that, and that's the thing too, it was good for us because it's on the surface, it doesn't hit the radar of the big tech companies.
Right.
It just looks too small.
Right.
But when you go and latch onto it like that, you can create some real opportunity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. So they approach you about selling,
Mm-hmm.
and how did that feel? Like, you know, when you kind of get a meeting or an offer or something like that, an LOI, like how did that feel? Were you anxious about that, or was it like, oh, this is cool?
I was actually kind of annoyed. Well, because like I think it was maybe the year or something before that, I already had a few companies that were like, I felt like they just wasted my time. Going through the song and dance and like, you know, having the discussions. And,
so people had reached out to you before.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
So there was another big publication company that was, you know, interested. But the closer I got to some of those companies, it was like, this doesn't make sense. You know, like we're going to be way better. Like keep running where we're going. And I think it became like became more of a distraction.
You turned down companies that were interested in buying you prior to this.
Yeah. Well, well, to be fair, they didn't make an official offer, but it was like, I just kind of walked away from it.
But they might have.
They might have.
If they
100%.
Yeah. If you courted you for a while longer.
100%. But it's like, but then we were starting to have some momentum, and it was like, it felt like another distraction.
Did you do any other like institutional fundraising to this point, or just that early kind of seed money?
Just that's it.
Yeah. Wow. So you must have been capital efficient. You're not burning a lot of money.
Oh, we were like super capital efficient.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So they reach out to you, like, why listen to them over somebody else?
You know, I mean, like anything in business, it's like, I don't want to like burn a bridge, you know,
Sure.
It's like, I want to be cordial and
take a meeting.
That's right. Yeah. Take a meeting, you know, hear them out. And I think, I don't know, in the beginning, I kind of maybe dismissed the first, offer, second one too. And then, it started getting interesting. And then, you know, finally, but it happened quick, you know, so kind of the initial conversations happened in November and the deal was closed by the second week in January.
Wow. That's very quick. I mean, when I sold my last business, it was like not quite 5 months, but it was up there. It takes a long time. So they must have been really interested.
Yeah.
So, okay, you sell, do you have to stay on as part of the deal?
Yeah, no, we stayed on board. I stayed on board for about three and a half years.
And how was that?
It was good. I think,
like really good, or are you being nice?
No, it's, I learned a lot.
Okay.
And I think, it was hard as an entrepreneur to work for the bigger company.
Yeah.
So I won't lie.
Like a caged animal.
I won't lie about that. Because but I also gained appreciation for the way a bigger company needs to operate.
Sure.
And so I think it was good for me to understand that.
To learn that scale.
That's right.
Yeah.
And there's really no other way. Things have to be organized a certain way when you have so many people
Right.
or so many operations and things going on. And I kind of learned that, like, you know, you almost need to know what your swim lane is and stick to it,
Yeah.
which is kind of hard. Sometimes I like to jump around in other swim lanes.
Yeah, it's tough. When you're an entrepreneur, it's tough to not chase rabbits, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you sell, and then, you know, you leave at some point. When do you leave? Like
it was
2020 or something?
Actually, it was right COVID.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And did you stay in Florida?
Oh, no. I moved to Utah in
Really?
like 2014.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
you were running this remotely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So where was HQ?
We had an office in Fort Lauderdale.
Wow.
That's where our kind of administrative team was. But me on the sales side, I was always going to either West Coast or East Coast.
Sure, it didn't matter.
That's right. And actually, this is another blessing that really helped us survive. My wife's parents were called to serve a mission for an LDS mission, and they were going to be out of their house for 3 years. And they wanted someone to live in their home. And
Free
so
rent.
that's right, free rent. And it gave us the opportunity to just like have survival income.
Wow.
And have minimal expenses to just try to get this business off the ground.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean the idea is, like, you know, the less you pay yourself, the more you can invest in the business, right? So, okay, so then you're in Utah already, and then you leave around the pandemic. Like, how did that feel, going from something to nothing?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I was just itching to do something new. You know, I think the other thing too that became hard working for the big company is I learned that big companies make decisions based off of months and quarters.
Yeah.
It's like you're like everyone's just building to the next board deck.
Yeah.
And it's like, and nobody's taken bold swings. Nobody's taken bold moves where if you invest or if you implement this now, it's going to make big moves next year.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Because it doesn't show up on the monthly or quarterly deck, it's like they don't take those risks.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know.
It's not as fun.
It's not as fun.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the entrepreneur side. I wanted to go back and I was kind of tinkering around doing different stuff. And then I think it was right around that time I was helping my son buy a car.
Okay.
And I bought I found the car in KSL, and then we met up down in Spanish Fork, like a Smith's parking lot at like 8:30 p.m. at night.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it was like, we liked it. It was a 2007 Toyota FJ Cruiser.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah. And so he was stoked, about it. And, but the thing is, okay, they had title, but it was $14,000. And I think that was, if you're buying something under $5,000, like use Cash App, use Venmo,
Sure.
bring cash,
Sure.
it's like,
yeah.
Okay.
It's not a lot to count.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so, but I think once it gets over $10,000, there's no way to just like do that deal.
I literally, so what car did I sell? My Mercedes C63 AMG. Beautiful car.
Nice.
Love that car. It's a light car, a lot of horsepower, really cool. But I wasn't like hardly driving it. I wanted to, do something else, I guess. But anyway, this kid who probably couldn't afford the car anyway shows up with literally $60,000 in cash.
That's nuts.
In cash. I was like offended.
Like, how are you going to count that?
I'm going to count that?
Yeah.
Like, it's going to take us 20 minutes to count that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have a cash counter. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, it's painful. Like buying and selling cars, especially if they're a little bit more
How can you get that
value.
much cash from a bank without it like flagging some kind of?
I guess he did. I don't know. This kid showed up with all this cash to buy the car, and I would literally made him count it, and I watched it because I was like, dude, I'm not counting that.
Yeah.
It would literally over and over and over. That's a lot of bills.
That's nuts.
Anyway, it's kind of funny. So
well, it's sketchy too because and I've already heard tons of these stories ever since starting Private Auto. It's like some of these stories come out of the woodwork of, oh my gosh, like I did this deal for cash and then all of a sudden got mugged, like, knowing that I had that cash.
For sure. Like,
it's like a setup.
Like a lot of cities are now putting in like safe buying exchange places at the police stations because it's that tells you it's a problem, right? Like you've got to do something. When you're dealing with that kind of volume, I mean, me personally, I don't know if this is too much info, but like if I go to something like that, we're in the state of Utah, I can carry a gun,
Carry a gun, yeah.
You should. Yeah. In some places you can't do that. Yeah. Like in LA, you can't do that.
Or definitely have somebody with you.
Sure.
Go to a grocery store or a bank parking lot, someplace has cameras.
But with private auto, you know who you're dealing with.
That's right.
Right.
That's
so there's like an identity with the person you're dealing with. Yeah. And it's pre-funded too, right?
So, and that's the other thing that bothered me. It's like when I used some of these other sites, it was like, okay, the first 5 people that reached out to you were scammers, like right out of the bat.
They're all just scraping new listings.
And then it was kind of a bad feeling because it's like they had your cell phone number. It's like, I don't like that. Like I have these scammers using my cell phone number to reach out to me. But you're right. It was like, it's always an awkward, and that's not the first time I've done this. I've done it a number of times before. Yeah. And no matter like, even coming from the boat business, like I wheel and deal like stuff, every time you do the private party deal, it's like,
who's this guy? Let's feel this out. Let me look at their Facebook profile.
It's always like
Facebook profile created 2023. Oh, this guy's great. Pakistan.
No, it's always like a little sketchy.
Yeah. No, so that's the problem you guys are solving. Yeah. So you started that a couple of years ago now?
Yeah. So I started, I actually kind of started around 2020. Okay. I actually hired a dev shop because I wanted to.
Because you had such a great experience the first time. Hopefully you found a better one.
Well, but this was unique because it was I had confidence that we could do all the peripheral pieces, the workflow, the e-signatures, the deal flow. Yeah. We know that. But the piece that didn't exist that we custom created was like, we're more of a fintech. Yeah. So I wanted to make sure that we could kind of like create these custom accounts. And so, I mean, ultimately which this was an interesting one. I wouldn't have started the company had my one phone call not wanted to do it. Because I remember a bank that we used to do a lot of business with in the yachting industry. The president, it was actually a credit union. The president of the credit union was very tech savvy. And I always remembered that. And it was very unique because you usually don't get the two together.
Old school bankers.
That's right. And so I when I thought of, because the other thing too, I played in crypto during that time. Yeah. And so that was the other thing that was driving my emotions, because it's like, wait a minute, like there's technology to like move money instantly. Sure. And there's validations in place. Why can't you do this on USD rails? Yeah. And then I kind of realized that, oh, wait a minute, we have to create like a interbank like transfer scenario. So we got to try to like create this with an existing bank to allow high dollars in USD to move. Right. So anyway, I called him up, pitched the idea to him, and he's just like, I love it. Like, this is cool. Let's do it.
That's cool.
And so, that the rest is history. But in the beginning, I wanted to like make sure that we could do that. Like I wanted to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
It was about moving money.
That's right.
Yeah.
100%.
So where are you guys at today? So you're in market now, correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome. What's the team size right now? Do you have any co-founders or anything, or do you just kind of go at this alone?
Yeah, two co-founders. Andy Lewis, who was my CTO from previous business.
Oh, cool.
And Dana Marchlitz. She actually worked for me at Yacht Closer too. And she was the one that set up the title and registration business at the time.
That's awesome.
And she used to work for one of the biggest yachting companies in South Florida. Awesome. But she's our chief product officer, and nice. But they are amazing. So we have about 8 employees and about 5 full-time contractors.
Yeah, awesome.
So super nimble, team. But that's we're designed to be that way.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's
especially in 2023.
That's right, and that's the unique nature of our business too. In terms of every decision we make is like it has to be zero touch. Yeah. So for example, for the customer to use that service, that feature, whatever it is, it has to be zero touch.
Yeah, it's a true PLG or product-led growth model, right? Like this needs to be something a consumer can use independently.
That's right. Yeah. Like when you use Venmo, you don't think you need to call support before I send you $20.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's what we are trying to build, and that's what so we're kind of in that. We just entered year 2, of kind of being in business. And now it's like really about grinding out that product market fit.
Awesome.
So anyway, yeah, that's where we are today. And, you know, we have a lot of things planned for 2024 and some big partnerships. And
you guys raised a little bit of money to get started, right?
We did. Yeah.
Did you do any formal institutional funding, or did you guys just kind of, you know, put in your own money? How'd you think about that?
Yeah, a lot of my own money.
Yeah.
And then
he said a lot of my own money.
And then, well,
too much of my own money.
So no,
I've been in the same boat.
Do you know what? I'm having more fun right now than I ever have.
Yeah, it's
and
awesome.
It's like I would even put more into it
for sure.
But outside of that, it's friends, family, and angels.
Awesome. Yeah, very cool. Thank you for sharing your story. Where can people get in touch with you if they have any questions or want to follow up or even try Private Auto?
Yeah. I mean, LinkedIn's probably the easiest for me.
Yeah.
And then if you message me, I'll get back to you.
Totally.
And then privateauto.com.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing your story. We wish you the best of success as you continue to grow this business like the last one.
Awesome. I really appreciate it, Chad.
Cool. Thanks. Thank you for listening to today's episode of No Instructions. Feel free to leave us a rating or review wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe so we can continue producing these podcasts. Today's episode was brought to you by Distro. Distro is a platform to help startups find, hire, and pay employees in over 200 countries. It's free to use. Go to distro.io to set up your free account today.